رحمن يا رحمن ساعدني يا رحمن اشرح صدري قرآن املأ قلبي قرآن واسق حياتي قرآن.
The next presenter now, Sanctity of the Dead, how Muslim health workers should relate to it or handle dead patients Islamically, by Muhammad Alhassan Usman Tannimu.
Going by the theme of this year's Iman Convention, humanizing healthcare, was the reason we felt we should have this presentation, which is Sanctity of the Dead and how Muslim health workers should relate with or handle dead patients Islamically. And this is what the outline is going to look like. Just introduction, then the point to note when handling a dead patient, and conclusion, inshallah. As a health worker, we have to deal with both the living and the dead. Of course, death is an inevitable end, which we must all pass through, which is why the dead should be handled with humility and respect. Religion, that is Islam, guarantees the dignity of the dead body. As soon as somebody died, or when death occurs, the body is laid in a straight position, what we call anatomical position, with mouth and eyes closed. This position provides manifestations of respect and honorable shape to the dead, and causes stiffening of the muscles in the proper posture. Because if they are not properly, stretched, there will be stiffening, and at the end, the posture that the dead is supposed to assume may not be achieved. And when dressing the dead, there may be a problem. The body is then washed, shrouded, set for funeral prayers, and buried. If he's a martyr, he need not to be washed, because the Rasul says, inshallah, these individuals will rise or will lock up on the day of Qiyamah with their blood and then send the takbir. Now, what are the points to note when dealing with a dead person as a health worker? It doesn't just end in the hospital where you have done yourself, you've done the last office, you prepare the clients. You are expected as a Muslim also to observe these following rituals. It is very, very recommended by the Rasul and has a lot of rewards. The first one is honoring the dead by what? Expediting the process of burial. You don't need to delay the process. Unfortunately, we have recent development whereby somebody will die in the morning and it will even be announced by the member of the family that the dead will be buried in the evening. Look at the time. Why? Because we want so a person to be available, even though the dead person has not recommended that such people should be available. That is not what Islam recommended, because the Rasul said 3 should not be delayed. The first one, prayer when it is due, funerals when prepared, and then the single female when selected by a suitable person for marriage. These 3 should not be delayed. Therefore also, the dead person burial should not be delayed. Secondly, Muh'd, someone in the state of pilgrim sanctity, that is Ihram, for Hajj and Umrah, is to be shrouded in the attire of Ihram, with his head left uncovered as in the state of Ihram. In the hadith narrated by Ibn Abbas, that the Prophet ﷺ said, he will be resurrected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, saying, Labaik, I respond to you, I respond to your call, Ya Allah. That is if the person dies in the state of Ihram. The third one, offering funeral prayers to the baby who has manifested a manifestation of life. That even if it's a baby that has just been buried, let's say stillbirth, or a baby that has manifested some kind of form of life and then dies, that child also deserves to be given proper funeral rites. Abu Dawud narrated that the Prophet ﷺ said, a miscarriage is to be offered prayers and invoke Allah's forgiveness mercifulness for the parents. Honoring the dead by proper washing, the washing or the burial ritual, that's what washing ritual has been taught severally, and I think Iman has been doing a lot of work in that aspect. Honoring the dead with shrouding, this is very, very important. The ideas are there, but the time is not much. Calling for a proper washing and shrouding should not be a cause for pride among people. These days, you see, a lot of pride has come into the aspect of shrouding our dead persons. You find some people shrouding the dead with very expensive clothing, which are not recommended by Islam. That white cloth should be enough, and the individual should not be differentiated from an ordinary person, because after all, we came here with nothing, and we are going back with nothing. Then lastly, what is happening now in our societies, where you have the grave now, instead of the grave being made usual or normal, ordinary, you find some even build the grave, which is not recommended by Islam. Honoring the dead by following the funeral, it is very, very recommended, because the angels of Allah follows the death of a 100%, somebody who is pious. And therefore, no matter how, even if you don't know the person that is going to be buried, once you see the convoy of burial and it is within your vicinity, it's recommended that you also follow as a Muslim health practitioner. And lastly, in confirmation with the principle of human equality and the concept of the dead being merited by Allah Ta'ala with his deeds and not with the wealth he left in this world, it is prohibited taking pride in the construction of graves. This grave should rather be very simple, where all people are deemed equal. Respecting the dead is not limited to the body itself. Rather, the protection for the dead extends to include one's reputation after death, as he has returned to Allah Ta'ala, which we are all going to return to one day, inshallah. In conclusion, every life shall taste death, and to Allah Ta'ala shall we all be returned. Therefore, in the course of our practices as Muslim health workers, the dead should be accorded appropriate respect, as if they were alive, to earn Allah's mercy and blessing. Thank you very much.
رحمن يا رحمن ساعدني يا رحمن اشرح صدري قرآن املأ قلبي قرآن